that might be in the hallway come in and testify. We're going to do LD 750, and in a minute we'll turn it over to the commissioner, but the plan of attack is that we're going to start with people that are more than, and is it, you've got it in order for me, Tyler?
Yes.
200 miles away, and 150, I'm sorry, 150, and I don't care whether you come up, well, we'll just read as they come down the list here that I've got as a sign up, makes it easier, so it doesn't matter whether you're for or against. And then we're hoping that you're going to testify in relation to the amendments we put together for LD 750, but that will be your choice. You have 3 minutes. We'll start with introductions, and then I'm going to turn it over to Madam Chair for a minute, and then Representative Tucker has a statement he wants to make. So start with Representative Buckland.
Good morning, Andy Buckland, State Rep for District 113.
Good morning. My name is Ralph Tucker. I live in Brunswick. That is House District 50.
My name is Bob Duchesne, House District 121. I live in Hudson.
Good morning. Welcome. Joan Welsh. I represent Islesboro, Camden, and Rockport.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Hanley. I represent District 87. I live in Pittston.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Breen. I represent Senate District 25, and that includes the towns of Falmouth, Cumberland, Yarmouth, Gray, part of Westbrook, and Chebeague and Long Islands.
And I'm Senator Tom Saviello. I represent Senate District 17, which is all of Franklin County and 4 towns in Kennebec. Madam Chair, would you like to explain a little bit how we got where we are?
Yes. Before we begin, I would just like to help people understand kind of what our process has been, especially in deciding on LD 750 as the vehicle to be heard today. When working the rules, we also realized there were some things in statute that we wanted to change and wanted to look at. So we had 3 things in front of us. We had the rules that came to us. We had LD 750, Representative Chapman's bill, and we had, I don't know the LD number to your bill. There was a
588.
LD 588, which is a concept draft, potentially. But rather than try and have 3 different bills, which we felt would be not only confusing perhaps to the public, but also to our bodies in the legislature, we decided that we preferred to have one bill where we could really, hopefully do an up or down vote. And after talking with Representative Chapman, we did decide on, or Chapman. Excuse me, we did decide on using LD 750 as that one bill, thinking that then we will do away with, we'll see how things go, but do away with the other 2 bills. So that is the thinking. That is why 750 is before us. I know there's concern that LD 750 does not look like the original bill, but we have kept in mind that the pieces of his bill as we work through it, and wanting to look at that as well as the many other items. We would ask you to turn off your cell phones, so we appreciate your participation today, and I hope that helps you give some understanding of why we are hearing 750 today and not some of the other bills.
Representative Harlow, do you want to introduce yourself? And Representative White. We can start with Representative Harlow.
Sure. I'm Denise Harlow. I represent District 36, which is part of Portland and most of the time part of Wilton.
Representative White.
I'm Representative Dustin White. I'm from Washburn. I represent District 146, which includes Blaine, Mars Hill, Westfield, Mapleton, Chapman, Castle Hill, Washburn, Parham Wade, and Eagle Lake.
Okay. Representative Tucker.
I'd like to make a comment on the scope of the hearing. Once again, I would like to raise the issue of compliance with the Administrative Procedures Act as a valid subject of discussion, including whether the provisionally adopted mining regulations are properly before us. This was raised earlier by myself, and 2 responses were made. First, that the subject was closed by the legislature's referral of the provisionally adopted mining regulations to this committee in the vehicle of LD 146. Second, that it doesn't matter, because we can render any irregularities in administrative procedures moot by passage of a statutory notwithstanding clause. This statutory notwithstanding clause is now before us. I believe possible serious irregularities in compliance with the APA are a relevant subject for committee comment and discussion for two reasons. First, under the APA, in the subparagraph entitled Committee Review, in section 8072 sub 4, it says, the committee's review must include a determination of G, whether the provisionally adopted rule was proposed in compliance with the requirements of this chapter and the requirements imposed by any other provision of law. On January 21st, 2015, the chairs wrote the Attorney General to ask if the rule proposed in 2015 was, quote, procedurally sound, close quote. And the memorandum of the two Assistant Attorney Generals dated February 23, 2015 said, quote, we believe the resubmission of the provisionally adopted mining rules about 1 year after the date of the board's provisional adoption is inconsistent with intent and language in the Maine Administrative Procedures Act. In light of this letter and previous testimony and exhibits, this committee must make a determination whether the rules were proposed in compliance with the APA. It is therefore a valid subject to be discussed in this hearing. Secondly, even if this committee sidesteps the issue of APA compliance in the past, the use of a statutory fix is a proper matter for discussion and comment, as it could affect the overall persuasiveness and credibility of the committee's product. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I will partially respond, as I have before. First of all, I will point out to you, as we have discussed, this came to us on a unanimous vote both by the Senate and the House, and that would have been an ideal time for such a objection to be established. Second of all, your statement about the letter from the AG is absolutely correct. However, in follow-up conversations with them, they made it very clear that by adding language that they provided to us that was notwithstanding would be appropriate as we move this bill forward. And thirdly, there is a question, and which we have not pursued an opinion on because I don't see it's necessary, that LD 750, since we're using that as a vehicle, you do not have to have the non-withstanding language in it. We are simply amending a bill in the way we feel is appropriate. So that would be a question, but we still are putting the non-withstanding language in there, as promised. But Representative Duchesne, you have a comment.
Yes, and it is just a comment. Thank you, Senator. I don't dispute the idea that this is a valid subject for discussion, but it's not abnormal. If you look at LD 1019, which is an appropriations committee right now, the word notwithstanding appears 47 times. In DEP statute, Title 38, the word notwithstanding appears almost 100. So this is not uncommon for the legislature to deal with particular difficulties in the cleanest, most expedited way possible when the legislature makes that determination. So it's certainly a valid discussion, but it's also common.
Representative Harlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to also make a comment on what Representative Tucker just said. I've done a lot of thinking, and this weekend was thinking about the idea that there's a question whether they're before us legally or not, and with a notwithstanding clause. And it sort of came to me that we might not be able to change what happened previously, but maybe we can change what happens going forward with this, and there will be substantial changes to the bill, and I know there isn't an appetite to move this. I know that the appetite is to move it forward quickly, and in fairness, I'm not planning on voting for this bill, but I would see this as a way to move it forward as major substantive rules that come back to this committee, and I know what the implications are, but that would be maybe one way to have them before us, and we can't change what's happened maybe, but we can move forward in a different way, and that's just my 2 cents.
Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I disagree with the representative from Brunswick on a number of occasions, today especially. First of all, If someone questions the germaneness of something, it has to be done on the floor, on the issue that comes before us and not before a committee. The committee has no jurisdiction whatsoever in terms of deciding whether something is proper or improper before a committee. If there's any question, then that can go to the floor or it can go to court. Second, I wish people would be honest with themselves. If they're opposed to mining, they ought to say so from the beginning and forget trying to work on a piece of legislation which they have no interest of ever supporting. And I suspect they're probably opposed to even mining gravel.
Okay, now we,
Sorry.
yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Harlow.
I would say that we have had legislation before us that we did question whether or not it was before us properly, and we actually voted last year to send two pieces of legislation to a different committee, and maybe that's a different type of question, but we do question sometimes whether something is before. So I would disagree with that, and I would also disagree with the idea that just because you are voting against something, I think that you might still have valid ideas, and I did say that I'm not planning on voting for this, and have been honest. But I think that people can have valid ideas and still share them and maybe make the bill better. And I would hope that those people who do want to vote for a bill would want to make them better if they did think that those ideas were valuable. Thank you.
Thank you. Isn't that so? So I think we're ready to move on. I think a good representative, co-chair, would you like to speak, Representative, since LD 750 is yours? Although you're not reintroducing it, we're going to then go to the department from there, and then we'll take the hearing.
Senator Saviello, Representative Welch, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources. My name is Ralph Chapman. I represent House District 133, the only Maine House district that has had metal mines in the past century. So let me clarify before I begin the comments made just a few moments ago. Yes, there was discussion with me about the use of LD 750, but it is not my place, as everyone on this committee knows, to either be able to offer permission or deny permission for its use. It's up to the committee how it's used, and I do not appreciate the rumors that have been circulating that suggest that I have given permission for its use. I don't have that authority to give or withhold permission, and that rumor I will not repeat, and I will not repeat who the rumor is rumored to have come from. But if any member of this committee believes that I have given permission, then you need to understand that as soon as the bill is referred to you, it is out of my hands. And quite frankly, I'm not happy with what you're intending to put into 750 as an amendment, but we'll get to that momentarily. Oh, and to clarify one other point, Senator, especially since you would have been in the Senate at the time when the referral to this committee of LD 146 was made, it was held and tabled on objection for the very reason that it was not before the legislature appropriately. Now, I understand I was not there. You may know that the Senate president took it off the table and pushed it forward. I would not say that that represents a non-awareness of anyone in the legislature that it was coming before us illegally. And I have made mention to that the first time I came before your committee, indicating that your committee had the authority to examine whether it was before you legitimately, and recommended that you take action regarding its illegality before you. I just want to make those clarifying points. And now I'll proceed with
Before
my
you do, let me just respond to the
prepared
last point so
Surely.
it's clear. I was there, and Senator Johnson brought up your objection. He did not ask for roll call, neither did leadership on either side, so it passed unanimously. So the Senate was aware of your concerns.
And it was tabled for 2 days, was it
Tabled
not?
2 days before it was presented, and then Senator Johnson stood up and stated his case for why he didn't believe it needed to move forward. I don't want to debate that. I just want you to know the whole Senate was aware. It's in the record.
And I had thought that he had asked for an opinion from the Attorney General. I was not there. I don't know if I thought the purpose for tabling it was so that he could get a legal opinion.
He offered his opinion on the floor, and it's in the record, and he did not ask for a vote. But let's move on to, let's not
Thank you.
debate it. Let's move on to your testimony.
In the early 1960s, my district was at a low point, similar to northern Aroostook County today, in which 3/4 of a century of declining population had left the region in economic hardship. Again, similarly to Aroostook County, my district was attractive to a Canadian mining company which promised jobs and economic opportunity for the depressed economy. Again, similarly to Aroostook County, the jobs estimates were an order of magnitude exaggerated. Here's where the similarities stop. My district did not have much of a tourist industry, trout fishing, or hunting lodges, nor was it emblematic for environmentally conscious, sustainable rural living in harmony with nature. Both an open pit mine and an underground mine operated for about 4 years. Both created heavy metal contamination of surface waters and groundwater. Both abandoned mines have left all future costs to the public. Current cost to Maine taxpayers is several $1 million, to federal taxpayers several tens of millions. An eerie silence of shame continues to hang over the region. No one talks of the mines, and I'd be happy to elaborate on that point. I have sometimes in the past, and I have further stories on that matter if you're interested. There are other differences. In the 1960s, no one knew about acid reactive drainage from sulfide mines. No measurements had been made of the ratio of neutralizing potential to acid producing potential, the NPAP ratio. No mining companies had abandoned investments of tens of millions of dollars on the very deposits of interest. Fortunately, the metal deposits in my district are not as high risk as that in Aroostook County. So far, the anticipated public costs for the mines in my district are in the tens of millions of dollars, not hundreds of millions of dollars as expected in Aroostook County. Remember that the number of jobs created is not an important metric. It is the net job changes that deserve attention, as the net jobs are those that are created minus those that are lost. Unfortunately, those that are created by mining are short-term, whereas those that are lost forever. It is not even clear that there are any jobs created, since modern mining uses robotic trucks and mining expertise will be imported. Why did no one notice the economic activity surrounding the expenditure of tens of millions of dollars on the Bald Mountain deposit? The answer is because economic activity from mining does not occur at the extraction site. Bathurst, New Brunswick, known for its sulfide mines, which operated for decades until recently, has had a steady population decline for the past 40 years and has an unemployment rate over 20%. Conclusion: the benefit of metallic mining, if any, to the local economy is likely negative. I have previously explained that insurance, in the case of automobile accident liability, is often carried in amounts that are 10 to 20 times the average liability claim. This committee has chosen to put forth a proposal that a required emergency response fund be in an amount 1/50th of the average liability claim for mining tailing storage facility failures. This means that the public, instead of being responsible for 100% of failed mine costs, as in the case with the Callahan mine in my district, will be responsible for only 99.9% of the costs. Quite an improvement. Except if the department is satisfied with a lesser amount in the emergency fund, in which case the public will be responsible for greater than 99.9% of the costs. Finally, the most egregious, disrespectful, and deceitful aspect of the proposed rule changes can be found in the first and last sentences of Section 5, in which you have retroactively and prospectively exempted rulemaking for metallic mineral mining from the Maine Administrative Procedure Act, thereby preventing the public their statutory right to participate in the rulemaking process. Regardless of whether or not there is any merit to your proposed amendment, it should be rejected outright for this travesty alone. This intentional removal of the public's rights also serves to allow the department to act on its ignorance without the benefit of any experience. Further, you are attempting to exempt the department from yielding to any further legislative review, even knowing that the department failed to follow the statutory requirements of the enabling legislation from the 125th legislature. This is tantamount to handing a signed blank check to a known check forger. I'd be happy to address any questions that you may have, but since I note that you have not taken any portion of the bill that I presented to you to incorporate in the amendment that you're proposing to replace the bill with, I expect that you will not want to hear any more from me. However, I'm more than willing to answer your questions. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you very much, Senator Saviello, Representative Welch, members of the committee. Good morning. I am Patricia Aho. I am the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection, and I'm speaking in support of the revised LD 750 under consideration by this committee today. Before I start, I just would like to personally thank all members of this committee for taking the significant amount of time that you have done so over the last 4 months. I have participated in public policy going on 31 years now in Augusta, and I think that in my recollection, the work that you have done in the past 4 months is almost unprecedented, at least in my memory, for the amounts of briefings, the work sessions, and the diligence that you have put into understanding the science, as well as the information related to the regulatory processes. I thank you because I think your work on the provisionally adopted rules has actually made them more clear and easier to understand by all involved. We are supporting LD 750 as you have proposed it and is before you today because most of these changes provide for clarity, as I've said, which we think is important for any potential applicant, to us at the DEP, and to the public as well. There are only 2 sections of the proposal in front of you today that I would like to take just a couple moments to raise before you because they provide us with some concerns. The first is in Section 5, Number 5 of your proposed bill, which is located on page 2 of the May 1st, 2015 OPLA Office of Policy and Legal Analysis draft. And that requires the department to define passive treatment using the term self-maintaining. The draft does not define the term self-maintaining, and as written, we believe this could preclude standards and necessary maintenance activities such as mowing or the preventing tree growth near a waste unit liner. So we believe that if you adopt Section 5, Number 5, we would recommend that the section be further amended to clarify that closure and post-closure maintenance standards, which are actually in Section 24 of the provisionally adopted rules, are considered self-maintaining, so that certain activities such as mowing, preventing tree growth, those would be considered part of that particular definition. Those standards in Section 24, for your own reference, start on page 71 of the rules, just for your own reference. Secondly, Section 5, Number 18 of the proposed bill, again, I'm looking on page 4 of the May 1st, 2015 OPLA draft, prohibits mining from lands under great ponds and from submerged lands. This conflicts with another set of laws, specifically Title 12, Section 549.12, which already allows for mining on state lands. Section 5, Number 18 also conflicts with Section 5, Number 17, which specifically allows mining conducted pursuant to Title 12, Chapter 201, Capital A, Subchapter 3. To resolve this inconsistency, we recommend that the committee remove number 18 and allow for consideration on public lands. And again, let me just underscore this term that I've just used is consideration, and that's all it is the consideration of that regarding the current law on mining on public lands. Again, I just wish to personally thank you for your continued work and efforts and for the opportunity to provide this testimony. As our staff have for the last 4 months, we will be sure to be here and be available to you at your work sessions to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Questions for the Commissioner?
Good morning. Senator Saviello, Representative Joan Welsh, members of the Joint Standing Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources. My name is Betsy Bishop Terrell. I'm here today representing PartOne and its surrounding waters. PartOne is located within 2 miles downstream of Bald Mountain and is one of the headwaters of the Fish River chain of lakes. My family has owned property on these shores since 1902. This has been a special place in my heart and deserves to be protected, as does the rest of the state of Maine. I'm adamantly opposed to LD 146, as you may recall from my previous statement from February of 25th, 2015. I am in support of LD 750 as it was originally written, because I believe its aim is to provide good, clear legislation for metallic mining. However, my support comes with the exception that there be no amendments attached to it that would lower the protection of Maine's public health, safety, its environment, and that taxpayers are assured they will not pay for any remediation and failed mines. I'm concerned that the committee has already changed LD 750 from its intended purpose, and as I have actively watched the Maine mining revision process since the beginning. Over this period of time, I have lost faith in the committee's ability to stand up and protect the environment from the mining industry's representatives who only have their needs in mind and not the long-term effects they have on the environment. It is the responsibility of the Joint Standing Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources to come up with legislation that will protect Maine's natural resources from poor mining practices and develop laws that protect the state of Maine from natural catastrophes due to metallic mining. Please do not falter from your responsibilities. My advice to this committee is to hire third-party experts to align LD 750 with worldwide recognized best management practices. These rules should be authoritatively spelled out to avoid any disasters. The state of Maine is depending on you. It's not too late to do what is right for the environment and the people of the state of Maine. I've included a few pictures from the affected mining area of Bald Mountain near PartOne. And if you look at the front page, you'll see a picture of Bishop Mountain, and this is PartOne, and Bald Mountain in the background. And back in the 1970s, I remember seeing if you look right behind Bishop Mountain, the mountain was shaved off so that they could do the investigative drilling to test for mining, and it's the reason why the PartOne Road is there. So it's been disturbed since the 70s. And then if you look at the next pictures, you'll see a picture of the spring that we drink out of, and the spring that, with the little house there, is the spring that many people that visit the lake use that water. And you turn the page and you see that the Fish River is being enjoyed by people as it should be, and for all generations to come, I hope, as my family did in the past. And I also included some pictures from our family album. My family traveling up Fish River in 1912 from Portage Lake, headed to PartOne, arriving at what we called Betula Lodge. Some people say Betula, it depends how you do your Latin, on the PartOne's North Shore. So that's my family, and I thank you, and respectively submitted, Betsy Bishop Terrell.
Thank you. Questions?
Is there any questions?
Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You don't get sworn in here. There's no, we do not follow that kind of court proceedings, if you will. Okay.
Shelley Humphrey?
Shelley Humphrey?
Hi, good morning. And sorry for the way I'm spelling, but it's Holly.
Oh,
Holly Humphrey.
sorry.
That's quite all right.
You got it for a second. I have to make a call.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Senator Salviello and Representative Walsh, committee members, I thank you, and Representative Dustin White. I am also from Washburn, so nice to meet you. I am the former town manager of Portage Lake. I would like to say I am disagreeing with a few of the points that had been made earlier. However, we did see significant increase in growth and economics when they were first doing the exploration out at Bald Mountain. Many of the businesses in Portage Lake did thrive significantly due to that, and we had an increase in home sales at that time. What I have before you today, since this is my third testimony with you, I've talked with you about the economics as a town manager, what we would need to have the growth come in. I talked with you also on the scientific components. Today I want to just give you some talking points that you can take back to consider as you go back into your work sessions. I'm just going to, you can look through these, but basically I'd like to point out that Maine was first in the nation for granite production at the beginning of the 20th century. In 1901, the Maine Bureau of Industrial and Labor Statistics reported 152 known quarries employing over 3,500 men. Many of the communities with granite quarries were Biddeford, Blue Hill, Frankfort, Franklin, Howell, Sullivan, Stonington, and Vinalhaven. In fact, the addition to the Maine State House was made of granite from Howell's H.L. Brown Company. First off, what needs to really be taken into consideration for you to make your decisions is that we have two types of minings. We have those that were in what we refer to as a legacy mine. Legacy mines are those that have been put into place before any regulations were brought on. When you had a legacy mine, if you look at the second page, it will say a reclamation was considered after the mine was closed, such as the mine. Modern mining today, which we are bringing forth to you, would put that into their consideration at the very beginning, that the reclamation is considered, tested prior to mining begins. In the legacy mines, you had waste rock was not segregated. Modern mining, waste rock has to be separated. Legacy, waste rocks used for construction. We know that that's not going to be able to be taken place here. Waste rock is isolated, backed, filled, and capped. And lastly, the waste rock was left untreated, which is some of the disasters that we are experiencing because of the acid rock drainage. In a modern mine, the waste rock interlaid with buffering materials. What we need to do is to realize that there are other technologies that are known throughout, not only just here in northern New England, however, throughout the country and overseas in Europe. We have our neighbors right across the line here in Canada, in New Brunswick. Just because we're into the, we have these capabilities, we need to look at it because of the geology, the climate, everything. These are relevant, and I ask you, since I am out of time, if you would look, please, at some of these guides that I've listed for you that gives a little more indication of how they can be maintained. And in fact, I believe that some of this is coming through the great work of our Maine Department of Environmental Protection. Thank you.
Ms. Humphrey. Questions? Thank you very much. Teresa Fowler?